All right, well, what is up, everybody? This is Keith Jamison. I go by Guy 231 across the DFS industry. We are back for another 5-game EPL slate and another driving version of the tour. I think this is possibly going to be a common theme throughout the year. I record Pat Mayo show on either Wednesday or Thursday nights. Make sure you check out Mayo Media Network if you want to see my quick picks that are up a day or two before. This is going to be the longer version where I kind of go, into a little bit maybe more building, but more so just deeper into the games. That show is much more about just here's some quick picks and some guys we're targeting, whereas today, we're going to talk about the games, the matchups, maybe get into some GPP strategies, nowhere near as deep as Alex Hooper does on this channel with Golazo. Make sure you check that out as well. Final thing before we get into it, actually I guess final two things. One, I hope this audio is okay. I'm going to post this regardless, but I forgot my wired in headphones before I left for the day. This is my only opportunity to tape today, so let's hope it sounds all right. Go iPhone, and hopefully my car isn't too loud. Not a fan of Ford Explorers. That's going to be trading this here soon enough, but the other part is just a quick reminder to like, subscribe, and comment. It all really helps our channel grow. We're almost to 3,000 subscribers. We started this channel a year ago. Soccer was the first video. Soccer has been, a stalwart of this channel. And I'm just so thankful for all of you for watching and the support. So please, if you haven't already, though, hit subscribe. You have no idea how much it does help. All right, let's get into the games. I have my little handy dandy sheet here to remind me what each of the games are to give me a head start. So first game, I'm just going to go in the order that they were on SofaScore when I wrote them down. So first game is Brighton hosting Everton. So first and foremost, I just want to make a mention of this with Brighton. Brighton is one of these teams that is much better at home than away. At the Amex, I'm not going to pretend I've been there, but when I watched on TV, the noise definitely seems to be contained a little bit more. And they're just a better team. They flat out had games where they dominate at home, dominate possessionally. I don't think that'll be the case versus Everton, who's a good side. But just make note, Brighton at home is a much better than Brighton away. Pascal Gross is going to be one of the popular pay-up options at forward. We saw last week he was over a Monopoly set pieces. I didn't get to watch. I watched bits and pieces, but it looks like he's lining up kind of as a wingback. We like that because it gives us open play value on top of just the corner and free kicks. He also, there'd be a reason to believe he probably was on PKs for them as well. He's 10,000. He's a significant discount off of Mikel Antonio, who I think will be another popular pay-up option. We'll get to that game last. But Pascal Gross, I was a little worried going into the season that we could see his production kind of, trying to think of the right word, muted or scaled back by the return of Solly March. First game we saw Solly March take a few corners. He took none last game. So I think that we have reason to believe that this is going to be the Pascal Gross we want to see. It's not the cleanest matchup ever versus Everton. They're only a slight favorite. Pascal Gross is definitely the top play on the Brighton side. Solly March, it's a mid-tier midfield play. I think he's fine. I'd prefer John Mcgann to him. I'll get over John Mcgann here shortly, but he's fine. Like a popular Brighton stack would be something like Gross, March, and then like one of Trossard or Maupay, and then maybe just toss in a stack if Alexis McAllister plays. Alexis McAllister, let me just go quickly on him. I think he finally signed permanently from Boca, but really talented Argentinian player. He wears their number 10. There was a huge hopes for him when he came over, and he really hasn't cracked the side. He started last game. He's played very well, scored the game beforehand off the bench. So I think he's an interesting GPP target. Has not cut into the set shares for Brighton like I thought that he may. So yeah, he's in play. I think that covers Brighton for the most part. Let's go to Everton. I'm really only interested right now in Lucas Dean. Should be almost over Monopoly set pieces. We saw Andrews Townsend start midweek and play, I think, all 90 in the EFL games. I don't think he's starting. I think Andrews Townsend now has already lost his starting spot after 1 week. And he split sets with Lucas Dean. So if Lucas Dean is out there on his own, he's going to be over most likely a Monopoly set pieces and has extremely good open play value. I think he's only 6,000 or 6,100 at defender. So I think he's a lock and load as a core play. Richarlison and Dominic Calvert-Lewin are your two forward options. Both at this point, I think, really do need a goal to get there. Definitely DCL. DCL over PKs is really interesting. So I think Calvert-Lewin is fine, if you're chasing a goal. Richarlison has a floor, but I think on this slate, just you either want to like pay up for Bowen or Gross, or pay down to like Rashica. I think that Richarlison's in this weird spot in the middle, but he has a floor of like 6 to 8. But on this slate, I don't know if that's going to do it for you, but he's fine, especially if he gets a goal or assist, so he can get there. Other player just to mention is Damari Gray. Back to his Leicester days, Damari Gray, really nice DFS option, crosses the ball a decent amount, may or may not take a set piece here and there. Played at Bayer Leverkusen last year on loan, was okay, but he started out the season nice. I don't think he's a cash play, but maybe like a contrarian midfield, mid-tier option. I'll just say this as like a little one-off. Sorry, I'm just trying to like make this not keep falling. All right, that looks a little better. Midfield is loaded on this slate, like really, really loaded, and defender is loaded. So I think it's really hard for me to not take a set piece taker at all of those positions. So I want 5 set piece takers between my 2 mids, my 2 defenders, and my utility. And then realistically, just playing around with builds, I can get 2 set takers at forward. Like, this is a dream Gator guy slate. Like, this is a dream me slate. I can get a set piece taker at every single position, which is probably what I'm going to do. So, when I say that these other guys are like contrarian options, they're not bad plays. It's just, to me, if I can just build a floor with all the set pieces and guys that have decent open play value, like those are my dream slates. So I really like this one. I'm gonna, probably sound like I'm poo-pooing anybody that's not on sets, because that's just my perspective and like how I like to play DFS soccer. But don't think that they're bad plays by any means. They just don't have sets, so I'm gonna be prioritizing guys with set pieces and open play value over them. So that covers Everton. So Dean, Calvert-Lewin, Richarlison, and Damari Gray are really your only DFS options. All right, second game, Aston Villa versus Brentford. Villa, I've mentioned this the first few weeks. They looked better last week, obviously, but that's pretty much a full new team. A lot of guys that are having to learn to play with one another. So I think week 3, especially at home before the break, I'm cautiously optimistic that this is a really good spot for them. Emi Buendia is going to be the top, cash optimal play the entire season. It's on a majority of set pieces. They're either going to play him in the number 10 role behind the striker or out wide in a 4-3-3. Either way, that's great. Those are nice spots for DFS. He hasn't been great to start out the season for DFS, but we know from his Norwich days, both in the Premier League and the Championship, he just mashes DK scoring. So I really do like him, sub 8,000. I think he's a very, very strong play. Anwar Al-Ghazi on the left wing. Looks like he doesn't have a set share now, but he's still a guy that loves to shoot, loves to take guys on. I think he's fine for forward. On the other side, if Leon Bailey comes in, it'll be really interesting. Leon Bailey, if he starts, I think will end up taking sets over John McGinn. Villa should be a split on end swingers for Emi Buendia and John McGinn. Unless you see Leon Bailey, I'd expect Leon Bailey to take over John McGinn. Danny Ings playing center forward. Obviously, we know Danny Ings from years in the Premier League. He is very much goal or bust, but he's on a good run right now. Already has the likely goal of the year with the bicycle kick. So, obviously a strong play, especially in GPP. Then John McGinn is the other guy I want to highlight. It's been really good, double digits the first 2 weeks. Obviously, a goal helped on one, but he's a guy that anytime he says sub 6,000 and he has a roll over set pieces, he's going to threaten for double digits every time. And then if he gets a goal or assist, you're in the mid teens to low 20s. Box to box midfielder, was on United's radar for a while. Very, very good player. So I think he's a strong play as well, especially at the price. Matty Cash and Matty Target, or whoever's going to play left back, because Matt Target was so bad the first game that they had to sub him. Both in play, but again, neither has sets, so I'm going to take defenders on this slate with sets over them. Defender is just truly, truly loaded, and so is midfield. All right, Brentford, I think there's only 2 guys in play here at all, because Villa is a good team. I guess I'm going to go 2.5 players. All right, so for cash, Brian Mbeumo was back over sets. He's forward eligible. He's a good price. I think I like Milo Rashica more. I'm going to go over him in a minute. But, certainly in play. Was back on sets. We didn't see him take any versus Arsenal, so that was a concern. Last week back on them, so very much in play. Also gets advanced, so, has some equity for goals and assists outside the set pieces. And then Sergi Canals, he's playing wing back, taking some set pieces. He's definitely one of the defenders that are in play. I think there's defenders that are in better spots, but I can't fault you for playing him. And then my half play, I think even Tony, Brentford, was not exactly offensively explosive versus Palace. That was a very boring game. But Ivan Toney is going to have double-digit goals in the Premier League this season, I believe. It'll be a good time for him to get on the score sheet. I think he'll be very, very low owned, so I think that's in play as well. All right. Now we are going, and just so you for the odds, Brighton's a slight favorite at home. Villa's, I think, like a minus 100 favorite versus Brentford at home. Norwich versus Leicester. I think this game is very important in the DFS landscape. I want to start out with Norwich as a home team. They are a big dog, but I kind of like them here from a contrarian perspective, and I do like Milo Rashica in cash a lot. Back into his Bundesliga days, Milo Rashica is a very, very good DFS player. Takes some set pieces, takes guys on in the left wing, is not afraid to cross the ball in or take shots. That's all the stuff we want from a DFS player. And he's only 5,000, forward eligible, had almost 90K at home versus Liverpool. I think that's a tougher game than Leicester is. I never will put weight in City guys or players when they play City at all. So I'm throwing that game out. I'm looking at Rashica as a 9 floor for 5,000 and in a forward position with some sets. So I love it. Billy Gilmore is the other guy that's been taking sets with him. He's cheap, sub 4K. The issue with Billy Gilmore is very much like an Ashley Westwood type for Burnley, or went in like a John Joe Shelby for Newcastle, and maybe John Joe Shelby not so much. I think Ashley Westwood is the best comp for me. A very defensive player except for the set pieces. So that's Billy Gilmore. He's going to be playing a deep number 6. Calvin Phelps, that's another good comp. So these guys that their DFS goodness is all from corners. Like, you get very little open play. That's Billy Gilmore. But, sub 4,000, depending on your build, that could be definitely useful. Let me take a quick swig. We might see Josh Sargent start on a wing. Maybe it's Todd Cantwell. And then Timo Pukki up front. All those are GPP. Really, your only cash guys are Rashica and Billy Gilmore. All right, Leicester side. Leicester, holy crap. They're so confusing. So obviously the game versus West Ham, not a very good indication of what we'll see from them this year. They had a red card 40 minutes in, so it looks like nobody scored any points other than Yuri Tielemans, who got the goal, because they were down a man the whole match. I think James Maddison is one of the most interesting plays in the slate. There's going to be a time. I talked to this on the Mayo show, but it's either going to happen or it's not going to happen. That sounds silly, but it's either going to happen or it's not going to happen that he's going to get set pieces back. All right. So he's either going to get them back or he's never going to. That sounds stupid, but in my head it makes sense. But if he gets set pieces back at any time, if he's sub 7,000, he is the biggest misprice possibly in EPL DFS history. James Maddison with a monopoly of sets is a $10,000 player, especially versus Norwich. His old team, mind you, versus his old crowd. I don't think it's revenge. I don't want to go hashtag revenge narrative because it was a great move for him. Norwich let him go. But you definitely want to show out for your other team, your old team, right? So he's 6,400. I kind of think he might have enough open play value. And don't look at the logs. The logs are going to make you think I'm stupid. Look back to years of James Maddison. Takes on guys, gets fouls drawn, creates opportunities, takes shots, all that good stuff. And he's cheap. Now, here's the thing. If you play him, you're foregoing a set piece taker, right? For a potentially iffy floor, because if he doesn't have sets, his floor is a little compromised. And then you're taking him over Yuri Tielemans, who the data says back to last season when James Maddison came back from injury, Yuri Tielemans has been on sets. Now, he lost some to Luke Thomas and to Ryan Bertrand in the first few games. So it's a split. So 8,100. I don't know if I necessarily want to go out of my way for Yuri Tielemans, but the odds say, hey, solid favorite away from home. We know Leicester's going to challenge for the top 4. Norwich is possibly going to get relegated. You should probably target the set piece taker. So I think it's really hard. Leicester's really tough here. And then Luke Thomas, I don't know. There's other defenders. I keep saying this. I haven't gotten to it, but there's a lot of, I already talked about Lucas Dean. The other defenders just don't get out of the way. Matt Ritchie is elite play. And then you have the West Ham guys. You have Cresswell and Kufal, who have started taking some corners, who are the biggest favorite in the slate. So I think there's a chance that 3 of those 4 are in some cash lines, or do you play a midfielder over one of those defenders? Like, that's how I think it's going to go. So using one of those spots up for James Maddison or Yuri Tielemans or Luke Thomas, who's all in this like set piece Man City roulette wheel, that's tough. So I don't know. I'm weirdly here, like, not much on Leicester. You know, you could always try to go to a Vardy party. Hell, here's a GPP strategy, right? The party lineup, the Pookie party and the Vardy party, and get 4 goals, 2 from each, win a GPP, buy a party shirt. There you go. There's your narrative. But yeah, man, Harvey Barnes GPP. But I really don't know if anybody's cash here. I think the most cash viable player on the Leicester side is James Maddison, but just understanding that it can be scary. I hope I explained that well. And Leicester is like a minus 120 favorite away from home. Here's another option. You know, all this goes to hell. You can play Tim Krul, you know, in goal for Norwich. If you're not sure where the goals are going to come from, or if you don't like anybody, maybe Norwich at home in a great crowd. They need a win. Scheduler is really must not like Norwich, because they got Liverpool to start the season, City, now Leicester. So tough stretch. All right, Newcastle versus Southampton. This is a really interesting GPP game. I know Alex, I haven't gotten to watch Golazo yet, but I know Alex is going to highlight it. Both teams defensively look shaky, to say the least. And you got prices down across the board. So I think it's a really, really good GPP spot. I'm going to talk about the cash options. For Newcastle, I really think it's 2 guys. I think Matt Ritchie is close to a core play for me. Without John Joe Shelby in the lineup, and we don't see Ryan Fraser, Matt Ritchie should have monopoly set pieces, playing a wing back, and we know Matt Ritchie's goal on the football pitch is to cross the ball. That is what he is there to do. And he's sub 7,000. He's now defender eligible, thank goodness. So yeah, I really like Matt Ritchie. And then I like Alan St. Maximin on Newcastle. No set pieces, but we know he's very Adama Traore-like. He's just going to take guys on a ton, create all sorts of havoc. Unlike Adama Traore, though, Alan St. Maximin can finish. So I think he's a strong forward option if you don't, you know, prioritize a set piece taker there. And, you know, he's affordable. Callum Wilson, GPP. Miguel Almiron, maybe GPP, something like that. If you like Newcastle and you want to stack the game up, that works. But cash, Ritchie, St. Maximin. On the Southampton side, James Ward-Prowse is just... If James Ward-Prowse is on a slate and not a Manchester City type of matchup, he is probably going to be my cash lineup. And he's affordable. He's on monopoly set pieces. He's best free kick taker in England, possibly the world. You know, he's outside the box. He's like on a Messi level that you expect him to make it. So I think he's one of those, probably the strongest play on the slate, especially given the matchup. And then the rest of Southampton, I think, is tough. I like Shea Adams for GPP quite a bit. I think Adam Armstrong for GPP makes a ton of sense. Playing all 3 of them together, you know, that's a very good likelihood if they score 2 goals that you got a piece of all 3 with those 3 in your lineup. And yeah, you roll from there. So I think that's Southampton for me. Final game, West Ham hosting Palace. I'm just going to get out of the way. I will not be targeting any Palace here. I think you could look at Benteke, Zaha, you know, Conor Gallagher, all as, you know, fringy cash plays, especially Zaha and Gallagher. Benteke GPP, but I don't really see it. West Ham is a good team. They're at home, which could be a good or a bad thing, depending. If you follow West Ham's history, just Google, you'll understand why. But you know, Crystal Palace's biggest dog. There's 10 teams on the site. I just don't need any bit of it. Even when they're a favorite, like at Brentford, nobody was that good. So no, Palace I'll pass on. Let's talk about West Ham. Mikel Antonio I expect to be really, really popular among the less sharp population, I guess I would say. I don't think your typical cash players week in, week out are going to go for Antonio and the logs, but a lot of people that are newer to DFS or play a more loose style, you're going to be all over him. Again, big favorite, striker in form, game logs are off the chart. 11,700 though. I will argue you can dodge 1 goal. If Mikel Antonio finishes with 18 DK, you 100% are not dead. Now, if he scores 2 goals, gets an assist, and scores 30 DK, you are definitely dead in GPP. You're not going to win it. And you're probably going to be hurting in cash and head-to-heads if you get people with him. But at 11,700, I would rather play his teammate, Jared Bowman, at 9,200, who's on a share set pieces, gets out wide, crosses the ball a ton. And, you know, we know Jared Bowen kind of went through a funk last year, But when Jared Bowman first got to West Ham, he was a DFS stalwart. We just loved targeting him. And I don't see just, a couple of bad games. It seems like he's definitely getting back into form, or back into that form again here. So I quite like him. I think Jared Bowen's a better cash play than Mikel Antonio. The other cash plays are the fullbacks. It is kind of tough for sets. We know Jared Bowen has the in-swingers out the left. Last week in the red card game, we saw Aaron Cresswell and Vladimir Kufal both take one of the other corner picks. Who knows who has them? I think they both have strong open play value on top of potential set pieces, and are a very good way to potentially get more West Ham exposure. If you just are sitting there, you go like, West Ham's the biggest favorite, but I'm not finding anybody that I can get here. Maybe the fullbacks are a good way to do it if you feel the need to do that. Declan Rice is fine, but again, on this slate with so many midfielders, I shudder to take a defensive midfielder without sets. Thomas Souček, this feels like a classic. He's going to show up with a goal on a slate that I would never target him, and maybe he'll show up with 2 goals. I saw Hoop retweeted a tweet that Souček, of like all the midfielders in England, entered the box more than anybody else, which is crazy, but it makes sense given how big he is, how good of an aerial threat he is. So I think he's always an elite GPP option. All right, I think that does it. So core for me right now, if you've made it this long, thank you. Core for me right now would be Lucas Dean. I'll go ahead and say James Ward-Prowse and Matt Ritchie are the 3 first clicks in my lineup. I love the floors. I think I'm locking in at minimum 30 DK between the 3 of them, and then I'm off and running to fill my lineup from there. Thank you all so much for watching. Again, hope this audio turned out okay, and really do appreciate all the support. Like, subscribe, comment. It all really does help. This is Gator Guy 231. Let me make sure I put my hand on the wheel. See you!